NFL fans, welcome back to another episode of the J All Day Sports Show. I have a great episode for you today. I'm going to do all my Week 2 predictions versus the spread. We did really well with our straight up picks last week. We went 12-4. Against the spread was another story. A lot of pushes for me, a lot of narrow losses. So it was a tough week versus the spread. I don't traditionally like to make any bets just straight up versus the spread, and that's why. Because look at how I do with my regular bets. So I put $100 worth of bets out there, a lot of parlays, 2-team parlays I really like, and I like the sweetheart teasers with 4 or 5 teams where you get 10, 11, 12, or 13 points. We were up 60% on the $100 investment. We made $65, man, not too shabby in week 1. All right, guys. Here's our first game of the week, and it's a big spread. We got the Raiders on the road versus the Ravens. The Ravens played that close game with Kansas City. Could have really went either way. Came down to a toe at the end of the game. Isaiah Likely, the tight end, had a monster game versus the Chiefs. The Raiders, on the other hand, lost to the Chargers. The Chargers ran the ball down their throat. I was definitely disappointed in that D-line. Max Crosby got handled by rookie Joe Alt all day long. I think the Ravens win this game, but do they cover the 8 points? I'm going to go with the Ravens to cover the 8 points. I'm not super excited about it, but the Raiders are going to have trouble scoring points against a very talented Baltimore Ravens defense. And Gardner Minshew was okay in week 1. I expect them to pressure him a lot. I think they win this by 2 scores and, at least 10 points, right? So I think they cover the 8-point spread. 49ers versus the Minnesota Vikings, right? Okay, I got some updates on the Minnesota Vikings injury list. Jordan Addison, the number 2 wide receiver, he's out for the game. The right side of the offensive line is really banged up too. Ed Ingram and Brian O'Neill are both questionable. So if you're interested in betting the Vikings in this game, make sure you check the injury report and see if these guys are playing. Addison's already been ruled out, but if both of these right side of the offensive line are out, I even think because they're banged up, I'm going with the 49ers and the minus 5 points. I think they cover. They only got one real weapon on the outside with Justin Jefferson because Addison's hurt. TJ Hawkinson's still hurt too. He won't be back till like week 5 or whatever. I'm going with the 49ers, who are pretty much healthy. They might just keep out Christian McCaffrey because their backup running back had such an amazing game in week 1. Going with the 49ers to cover the 5-point spread. Let's move on to the Saints at the Dallas Cowboys. Jake Ferguson, the starting tight end for the Cowboys, he's out. He's hurt. All right? He's out. He's already been ruled out. No real other injury news that I came across for the Saints or the Cowboys that are really going to affect this game. The Cowboys, 6 points is a lot. They are at home. The defense for the Cowboys is great. Mike Zimmer did a great job in week 1, really dismantling the Browns' offense. Not the best offense in the world, but neither is the Saints, right? So you know what? I'm going back and forth on this game. But the Cowboys were so dominant. I think they're really going to put pressure on a not-so-good offensive line. I actually, in my notes, had the Saints covering the 6 points. But you know what? I'm flipping. I'm going with the Cowboys to cover the 6-point spread in this game because I think Micah Parsons and this defense is really going to get after Derek Carr, force a couple turnovers, cover by more than 1 score. I'm going with the Cowboys to cover the 6 points. Okay. Next up, Chargers at the Panthers. This spread is still somehow only 5 points, right? The Panthers' best defensive player, Derek Brown, the captain of the defense, captain of the defensive line, he's done for the year. They couldn't stop the run last week with him. So what do you think is going to happen? I'm going with the Chargers to cover the 5 points on the road. Bryce Young is trash. He looks so bad. I just don't see how this offense works. He lined up under the guard last week. Miles Sanders had to bump him over to be like, hey, dude, you're in shotgun under the guard. Move under the center, dude. He's just frazzled. Chargers defense is pretty good. I think Joey Bosa is questionable, so we got to keep an eye on that, but I don't think it's even going to matter. Chargers are going to control the clock, control this game. I think they win by at least a touchdown. That's why the Chargers cover the minus 5 points in my opinion. All right, let's move on to the Jets and the Titans. I scanned through my notes. I don't see anything of interest on the injury report for the Jets or the Titans, both going pretty healthy into this game. Yesterday, the line was -4 for the Jets. It's down to -3.5. I wish it would go down to -3, then I would definitely pick the Jets to win this game. But the Tennessee Titans couldn't handle the Bears' defense. Pretty good defense for the Bears. But the Jets' defense is even better, right? So I think the Jets are really going to stymie this offense for the Tennessee Titans. Will Levis made some costly mistakes, special teams mistakes. And if you turn the ball over on special teams or on offense, Aaron Rodgers is going to make you pay. I think he had to get his feet under him a little bit in week 1. You could tell he didn't practice much together, right? Drop passes, fumbles. I do like Aaron Rodgers to win this game on the road. It's never great to bet big favorites on the road. I don't love this spread. I wish it would be 3 points, and I would definitely go with the Jets. It is 3.5. I think the Jets cover the 3.5. So I'm going to go with the Jets to cover the 3.5. But another game I'm not super excited to bet on for sure. Colts at the Packers. For the Packers, Josh Jacobs also questionable. He was limited in practice on Thursday. Jordan Love is doubtful. He hasn't been officially ruled out by the Packers yet, but with an MCL sprain, they would be absolute maniacs to allow him to play in week 2. So I'm guessing Jordan Love's going to be out. We got to keep our eye on Josh Jacobs because if he doesn't play, I'm definitely going with the Colts. I still think the Colts cover the -3. They played the Houston Texans, who I think are the cream of the crop in the AFC, right? So, very close game. Came down to the fourth quarter. Malik Willis is not one of the better backups in the NFL. The Colts defense got a good defensive line. The secondary is not so good in my opinion, but I think the Colts cover the 3 points. I'm going with the Colts to cover the 3 points because if they win by 3, we at least get a push out of the situation. The Packers are at home, but without Jordan Love, the offense is going to look very, very different in my opinion. Next up, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road versus the Detroit Lions. I think the Buccaneers cover the 7.5 points. Huge spread for the Lions at home. I like the Lions. They're really good. But we got to remember the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are dealing with a lot of injuries. Antoine Winfield has already been ruled out. Kalijah Kancey, he's questionable. Takei Smith, questionable. It looks like Luke Godecki, the right tackle, is out with a concussion. So, guys out on the offense, guys out on the secondary, right? That's why this line is so heavy for the Detroit Lions, but I like the Baker juice, guys. I think he's going to score some points against this not great Lions secondary. I think they keep it close. If it goes under 7 points, I'm out. But since it's over 7, I'm going with the Buccaneers to cover the 7.5 points. Lions look pretty good, but Jared Goff didn't look great in week 1, so we'll have to see if he ramps it up in week 2. I expect Amon-Ra St. Brown to be a lot more involved in the offense in week 2. Seahawks versus the Patriots. I'm going with the Patriots to cover the 3.5 points, guys. Listen to this. Kenneth Walker, questionable. Tyler Lockett, questionable. Right tackle, questionable. Entire defense is banged up. Like 6 or 7 guys that are starters on defense, all questionable for this game. At least half of them are probably going to play, but they're very banged up. Right tackle's banged up. And this Seahawks team probably has the worst offensive line in football. Geno Smith being favorites on the road with this offensive line in a very good New England Patriots defense. I love teasing the Patriots up to like 14 points, something like that. But I like the 3.5 points. Give me the 3.5 points with the Patriots at home Seahawks got that suspect offensive line. A bunch of guys banged up on defense from this week's injury report. So I'm definitely a little concerned about that. That's why I'm going with the Patriots. I'm rolling with them and the plus 3.5 points. Giants at the Commanders. I'm taking the Commanders and the 1.5 points. Malik Neighbors popped up on the injury report, and man, the reports are coming out saying that like the Giants wide receivers got some of the best separation in the NFL in week 1, and guess what? Daniel Jones couldn't do absolute crap with it. And they can't beat the Commanders. Daniel Jones may be finding himself on the bench. It's going to be a close game. Division games are always tough, but I like what I saw from Jaden Daniels. His threat with the feet is always there, especially with the good pass rush from the Giants. I think Jaden Daniels is definitely in play for daily fantasy. He's probably going to run for 80, 90, 100 yards again because Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns, if they break through that offensive line, he's going to be taking off running, and they can't run with Jaden Daniels, man. Not too many defensive linemen, can. I look for Jaden Daniels to get McLaurin and Ertz a little more involved in the offense. For sure, I'm going with the Commanders to cover the 1.5 points. Next up, we got the Cleveland Browns and the Jacksonville Jaguars. A lot of injuries to report on Cleveland. Left tackle Jedrick Willis Jr. He's out, it looks like. 3 guys questionable on the D-line. Myles Garrett, Dalvin Tomlinson, Zadarius Smith, all questionable, guys. That's huge for the Cleveland Browns, who the only chance of winning this game is by their defense, right? Because Deshaun Watson is trash. Starting tight end David Njoku, he's out. So a lot of injuries on the Cleveland Browns side. Jacksonville Jaguars have a really good defensive line. I expect them to get after the Cleveland Browns. I think Trevor Lawrence bounces back, gets a home win here, covers the 3 points. The line's only 3 points. I definitely think they can cover that line. I'm just going through some of my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything for you guys. That game looks like an easy win, -3 for the Jaguars. I like the money line at -166 too. Rams at the Cardinals. A ton of offensive linemen are banged up for the Rams. They had to go off a team's practice squads and sign guys. They signed one of the Eagles draft picks to their active roster off the practice squad. A lot of injuries on the offensive line. Too many offensive linemen hurt. Puka Nacua on IR for the Rams. That's huge. This game's going to be close. I do like the Rams D-line. Got a lot of talented young defensive linemen. Arizona Cardinals defense is still terrible, and they still have Matt Stafford. As long as Matt Stafford is upright, I think they cover the 1-point spread. The Arizona Cardinals looked okay in week 1, but their right tackle, Jonah Williams, is on IR. They don't have the best offensive line to begin with. Kyler Murray's going to be running around frantic. Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't really in the game plan. I'm not a big Kyler Murray guy. I think the Rams cover the 1 point. Cincinnati Bengals at the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, for Cincinnati, guys, we have some injury updates. T. Higgins looks like he's out of this game. I still think Joe Burrow's hand is not 100%, so I'm going to be rolling with the Chiefs all day to cover the 6 points. Hollywood Brown is out, but the rest of the Chiefs will be there. They got extra rest coming off that Thursday opening week game versus the Ravens. They're all healthy. I like that pick. The Chiefs and the -6 points. I love it. I love it. I love it. Steelers at the Broncos. Isaac Seumalo, the offensive guard, is still questionable. It does not look like Russell Wilson is going to play. It's going to be Justin Fields' team for week 2. Okay. The Broncos are just a little banged up. The O-line and wide receivers banged up. Josh Reynolds is banged up. So for the Steelers, Patrick Queen did not practice on Thursday. So some injuries to be concerned about, especially with the offensive line and wide receivers of Denver. I just think the Pittsburgh Steelers and that crazy talented D-line is going to be a headache for the Broncos offensive line and Bo Nix all day long. I look for the Steelers to cover the 2.5 points. Pittsburgh's on the road, but I think they cover the 2.5 points easily. Bo Nix, a little frantic. The Dinkin and Duncan's not going to work against this Pittsburgh Steelers defense. They got talent on all three levels for that defense. I love Pittsburgh Steelers to cover the 2.5 points. All right, guys, the Bears on the road versus the Texans. Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen are both questionable. It looks like Rome Odunze is not going to play. Keenan Allen might play, but there's just no way. I just can't see Caleb Williams after that performance last week. 6.5 is a lot of points, but I think C.J. Stroud gets it done. The Bears' defense is pretty good, but C.J. Stroud is just better. And the Texans' defense is way better than the Titans. If Caleb Williams threw for under 100 yards versus the Titans' defense, what's he going to do against the Texans' defense? I love for the Houston Texans to cover the 6.5 points here. Then our final game of the week, Philadelphia Eagles, home opener versus the Atlanta Falcons. Kirk Cousins doesn't look 100% healthy to me. The offensive line for Atlanta really underperformed in my opinion. 6.5 points is a lot, guys. Can the Eagles contain Kirk Cousins in prime time? I think they can. But, I don't know. I'm going back and forth. But you know what? I'm going with my Bird Gang to cover the 6.5 points. I'm not excited about it. I'm not. The Eagles' defense still leaves a lot to be desired, especially that secondary. Rookie Quinyon Mitchell played pretty well, but man, in the slot, Avonte Maddox was absolute booty cheeks. He got torched all day long. I'm looking for them to sprinkle in Cooper DeJean a little bit more in week 2, because if Cooper DeJean can play in the slot, Quinyon Mitchell, Isaiah Rodgers is going to be back at the cornerback position too, so that should be an upgrade, and that's why I think the Philadelphia Eagles covered the 6.5 points. All right, guys, I know that was a mouthful, but I want to update you on all these games with these injuries so we can make the best bets and get paid when we make these bets. If you're interested, I'm going to do my bets for my members only after this video today. Every single Friday, I put out my Survivor picks and all my bets for my members. $4.99 a month. You get all my bets, Survivor and regular bets. I was up $65 on $100 worth of bets. That's almost a year worth of my subscription in 1 week. Absolutely crushed it. You got to become a member. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.